6:30, wake up.
Oh, it is?
You got it.
We'll call this, May 21st, 2025 work session, on the, town budget. Order. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none, we will go into discussion, action by mayor and council, which is a fiscal year 2025-26 budget. And if I understand correctly from our last meeting, our last council meeting, the three areas that we are going to have been asked to rediscuss tonight is the water bill, an increase of $1, COLA increase, and the merit increase. So, as you know, we have on the water bill, we have a $1 increase per 1,000 gallons. And I should have asked, we haven't, when's the last time we raised those water rates, Randy?
It was 23.
2023, okay. So we're facing a 19% income this year, increase from the water authority this year and 20 next year, or vice versa. It's something like that. So, you know, when we're looking at the water bill, I mean, it's not, there's so other many things that go into that. As far as, you know, we pay Public Works for the work that they do on, you know, the water lines and this type of thing. Jim, am I correct on all this? Any of the water line maintenance is paid for out of this enterprise fund? Is that correct?
Correct.
And while it's an enterprise fund, Philip, this increase this year, if we don't touch the rates next year or so, it will still generate income for, I guess, a reserve for projects that we need to work on. Is that, Randy, is that your,
Correct.
Scott?
Correct. We estimate it would generate approximately $500,000 for reserves for the first year.
The second year would probably be 200.
Probably 250 to 300,000.
Mm-hmm. And it's to do work on capital improvements and this stuff. Is that correct?
Correct. And as we mentioned, we're planning the leak detection program.
The one?
Leak detection.
Yes.
So we expect that will generate projects.
Comments?
The big text, when would that start?
We just approved the task force in the last council meeting, so they're proceeding with getting that in order now.
Okay. And this is to find like big some people's water.
So
tanks,
in our aging infrastructure, all of those, you know, it's looking for large leaks along our water lines themselves, trying to find target areas for capital improvement projects.
Do it by combination of, I guess, sectional metering and water listing.
So if we go back and we found that there was a problem
It should
6
tell us.
months back, are people gonna be reimbursed or?
It's not so much a reimbursement thing, it's more detecting the water losses within our system. It's not, doesn't have anything necessarily to do with billing, but based on, from what I understand, in our system, we purchase 35% more water than we sell, and that's due to losses.
So, yeah, 30, I think the study was 37, 38% is the estimate of all water lost in our system. So that number will never be zero because you have some evaporation and things in the system. So, you know, if you get down to 10%, you're probably doing really good. But there is, you know, being at 37 or 38%, there's room there for significant improvement. And just to give you an idea, we spend $5 million a year on water purchases from the water authority. So if we could get a 20% savings, that would be $1 million a year for the enterprise fund,
But it's gonna take a capital investment for us to get to that.
which is going to be millions of dollars.
Okay.
So
How are you spending that capital fund right now?
I don't know that I have that with me. I can get you guys that number.
And, can you share any information about, the program we have that provides relief if people qualify? Do we have a program like that for utilities?
Well, we had back during the, COVID, we had a federal program, but that actually expired.
Okay.
And to be honest, a lot of our back due water accounts were basically written off, under that. People would sign a statement saying that they were affected by COVID.
Gotcha.
But we got reimbursed from the federal government, and a lot of people took advantage of that. Although that's expired. The only other things we'll do leak adjustments if people have a water leak.
Mhm.
And we'll basically do like an average of their last 3 months' bills. And basically use that for the bill.
Gotcha.
But that's really, don't only that, we'd be able to put people on payment plans if they do get behind and can't make payments.
And I think another important thing to note is I think our average water user uses around 3,000 gallons a month. So this would equate to about $3 a month for most
For average.
in town.
Out of that, it'd be 6, roughly.
Right, so when will the water pipeline start to be completed?
It's gonna be an ongoing process. I don't have a date. We just issued the task order to engage with Hurton Profit to do the water listening, to start identifying the areas. Once we start identifying the areas, then we have to identify projects. And then we determine roughly what we estimate that cost, and then that's when they come back to council and decide kind of where we're.
All right, can funds be shifted from other areas to cover the increases? Example, connector road plans, 950,000, aquatic center overflow parking, 75,000. Fire and EMS building plans. We have any identify the property. We don't even know what is best to be in the town's limits. Yeah, why would we make a plan without all of the facts? This one seems like a no-brainer.
Well, that town council's discretion, although if you're taking money from the general operating, putting it in the enterprise fund, then you're essentially subsidizing the water and sewer service. So
Which is still our services.
it is, although we have out of town customers too.
Why is there, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm just saying, how is that different from the aquatic center or the park or any other subsidy that we're giving?
People from out of town can use the park, and that's the council decision to build the park. It's council decision if they would want to subsidize water. We've, to be honest, sort of gotten away from subsidizing water. I think we used to put money in for capital projects many years ago, but we haven't done that in to be honest, a long time. And like I say, we've kind of taken the enterprise fund approach that it is an enterprise fund and that the people using it should be the people paying for it. Although we can't steal money out of it for the general operating, you can put money in from general operating into it if you desire. That's up to town council.
Now, you had mentioned the other day, Randy, that it will be okay, we don't increase the water. Our water rates have went up more than our increases for a number of years. Each year it was stated that it will keep us from going up next year. Yeah, we raise them again and again and again. I have been in council and this has happened many times. And every time it's the same excuse. We're gonna, because the, authority has raised it by several cents every time or something. You guys say that we're gonna cover those and that will be, we won't do any more increases later on, but somehow or another, we keep increasing the water bills. And then we, like I said to you, we keep increasing them. The public is not an open bank, obviously, and we need to live within our means. So, to speak just as our citizens have to do. I think that's a big concern for me, one of those things keep going up and up and up in this water bills, and it seems like we're keeping the money on the side, when we can obviously use money from the general funds, and with the town's decision, we can obviously move those funds to the water, supply and stuff. My question to you guys too is, why isn't the county going up this year? We wanna, we did an increase on the water bills just not too long ago, I guess, a year ago on the county. But why aren't they not going to be increased?
You'd have to ask the county, really.
Yeah.
That'd be the.
No, but within the town,
Their water rates are going up just like ours. They will get a 19 cent per 1,000 increase, just like we're getting.
no, but the ones that we supply. So my understanding is the water supply that we provide, I know the authority gives us all the water. And then we sell it out to county, not all the county, but obviously some of the people in the county, like Walnut Creek, for example, subdivision. We did an increase for them not too long ago. Are we doing an increase for them as well? Because obviously they don't live in town limits.
They're at 200%. It had previously been at 150% rate. I think I've mentioned to council that normally out of town rates, if you were to survey Virginia, I would say most localities would fall out for out of town service, either 150, 175 or 200%. So somewhere in one of those three ranges is probably normal for out of town service.
Well, the hope was for them to us to be included in the town limits eventually. So,
And they could request that if they want.
And so there's got to be a difference between town limits and county limits.
There is.
We're paying for that difference.
So we're the dollar per 1,000 gallons to the in-town citizens
Would be two.
is $2 per 1,000 to the county
So
residents.
much is it gonna be now for 1,000 gallons, 18?
The county is $10 for a minimum bill, and the county would be 20 for a minimum bill. So it would go up to, a county minimum bill would be $22.
But what is 1,000, for 1,000 gallons?
That would be it for 1,000 gallons, it'd be $22.
What would the average bill be, do you know?
You multiply that times roughly 3, it's a little more for the second 1,000, isn't it?
That's just for water?
So it's got the water.
Yes, it's just water.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a little more than 3 times that,
Around 70 a month for water,
roughly.
pretty steep.
Of course, that doesn't, now, we don't pick up trash and do recycling.
We don't do recycling or trash pickup outside town limits unless our garbage crews go by the residents in the line they're picking up trash, then we will.
What does that have to do with the water bill?
Just, I'm just answering. your question.
$24 a month. Fixed hours.
I'm sorry.
Our water bill, and when you look at the total water bill, is, there's $18 for solid water, for garbage, and $5 a month for recycling, so that's $23 a month. That's added on to our bill, that's not necessarily added on to the county bill.
Yeah.
And the water runoff fee, the $6, so we had about, if you look at your actual water bill, it's not as, the actual water usage bill is not as high as the perception is not, it's not as high, but then the other
I don't think
services
people
will.
care about how it's broken down. I think they care about the check that they have to write.
Oh, I understand that. Yeah,
I think one other thing to consider for the county is that since they don't pay any town taxes, whatever we don't save into the capital fund from these fees is supplemented by the folks who do pay town taxes. So if they're paying more for their water, they're not paying town taxes, but at least they're pitching and they're contributing to what that capital fund is. Because otherwise, the citizens are gonna have to pay for those improvements in the county, because we still have to maintain those lines.
And the sewer is gonna be the same this year, so.
we didn't increase that
Really
rate.
changing sewer rates. It's
We just, this is the water coming in, not the water going in.
And, what about, but obviously, are they in two different accounts, right? Because this money goes in when we put it in, so they go to two different accounts under the budget?
The joint enterprise, water and.
Water and wastewater is, all goes into the enterprise.
So what do we do for the people that are actually not paying for sewer as well? That are actually hooked up?
If somebody's hooked up to sewer, they should be paying for sewer. There's an address in town that's connected to sewer, and is not paying, let us know. We will certainly investigate it.
Tanya, out of curiosity, are you paying for that sewer? See, you're not, but it is connected to the town.
No,
It is.
our chef says that we have a big thing.
You don't?
You do.
No,
Yes, that,
he doesn't have a septic. It was a foreclosure at one time and I checked into it. Anything not have a sewer thing.
Check into
I
it.
don't know how to
Okay,
figure
that'd
that
be great. Okay. I am not for this increase. If we don't, for the last years, it has been said that we were gonna keep the money on the side to pay for this and, for these increases. And, we went from, when I was looking at the gallons from the county, what they had been charging us. What is the fee that they're charging us right now for the, from the water authority? Because when I got your paperwork, Randy, it show up to 2018.
Go back and look at the rate.
they're charging us somewhere in the area of $4.50 per 100 gallon, per 1,000 gallons at this point.
450?
Well, I think that's the charge to us.
I thought it was like 3 something.
I don't think so.
So back in 2015, the county was charging us 208. And then now obviously that has,
The authority.
yeah, the authority. And they are charging us how much? Is that exact right now?
Proposed for 25-26 is $4.40 per thousand
$4 what?
and 40 cents.
And how much is it this year?
It's $4.21 right.
$4.20.
Yeah.
Okay. This is still almost triple from us. Because right now it's $10 for 1,000 gallons, right?
We go to 11, right?
So it's almost double. Okay, the increase.
Okay.
I'm still not for it this year.
We simply get the water from the master meter, after the
Mhm.
master meter's out on 114.
Mhm.
So we've got the systems to maintain all the way from there, basically throughout town.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in a line with Johanna on this. I've spoke with you several times and I think I've made myself pretty clear in the room each time I've been here that I'm really not for a water increase right now. Stating the fact that you said we could get by without doing it this year. The economic environment is treacherous right now for everybody, especially the people who are having to pay these bills, that are not on the big salaries like a lot of the people in this room are. And I really think that, we need to be considerate of the times that we're in. There are other funds that can be shifted to take care of this. I understand the need to fix the water leaks. But we don't have a clue about those yet. It's just like the fire and EMS, we've got $1 million set back for that. We don't have any direction unless I'm unaware of it. Maybe we have some and I just haven't heard about it yet, but I think we're a long ways from drawing up plans since we don't even know where it would sit.
So we're on the water now. We're gonna address the other.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, and it doesn't matter to me, I'm not up for reelection this year.
Mhm.
But I'm not gonna vote for an increase.
Okay. Well, and I think that, when you look at the the differential between the $4.40 that they're gonna charge us and the $11 that we charge. You know, that's, like I said, but you have to figure the operation of the Public Works Department and all that into that. That's a good
Consider
portion
all
of,
of that.
so, I mean, it is a cost. That's where a good portion of their funds come from, because they're, in order to fix the lines, do the other type stuff. So we have to factor that in, so.
Yeah, it sounds like to me though, that a lot of this will go into the future budget, you know, as far as the actual repairs. We don't know how long it's going to take, and I did hear some, talk, I think from Jim, who I respect very much, about, you know, finding the big stuff and patching that first, you know, to kind of slow things down as we go. But we don't have any facts, you know, and the fact that we do know is that we're in a bad economic environment for the average Joe. And this affects the average Joe, even if it's just a little pinch. The county just took a big bite, you know, last year. You know, I mean, it's accumulative, and I know we're different from the county and we're separate, but I still consider them all the same as far as, you know, how the outcome should affect people. Sorry, it's just important to me, and I don't think it's the year to do it. I think there's a lot of gravy in here that could be moved around, instead of doing that this year.
Anything else on water?
You may answer this. So what is our cost for 1,000 gallons going to be? Once the water authority,
440?
No, 440 is what we're paying.
Okay,
440 is what we're paying them.
Yes.
We are charging,
11. I would propose it to go to 11, right now we're charging 10.
If we were to take it out, I think we would be roughly even with the water. Like I say, I mean, we'd probably be a little bit to the good, but not a lot. And I wouldn't wanna, you know, certainly wouldn't wanna lower the rate because you'd be running the risk of running a deficit. So it's tight without an increase.
I also think we need to be conscientious of not waiting to save for this until we know what our savings goal is. Like, eventually, we're gonna need, not that we're talking about the fire station, but we're gonna need repairs. So for us to not save for those things until we know what it'll be, then we just push that years and years down the road. I mean, we have to save for these things. We can't just take all the money and put it in one issue and not save for the other issues.
I'm gonna beg to differ on that because I see the budget, how much of it goes into parks and rec rather than, you know, structure, things that we have to have. That's why I have so much respect for what you guys do. We need that. We need a lot of it. This town is lacking in infrastructure. That's one of the reasons I run, you know, because of the holes in the road and the pipes and the sand in my water and, you know, all of those kinds of things. And I believe that the priorities need to kind of be turned around a little bit in these times that we're in. If we had plenty of money and it was a different time, you know, it would be, I would feel differently about those things, but I don't.
But I mean, I don't mean like Parks and Rec. I mean, because that's not a capital improvement budget. I mean, the savings, for example, for a fire station, I wouldn't say, okay, don't save for a fire station, take all that money out and do something different, because we have to save for each of these things. If there are things to cut from Parks and Rec, like, I think just bring a list. I mean, I really bring a list and let's talk about it and let's put that money in savings. I'm down for that discussion for sure.
Yeah, well, if you think I would take all of that and put it into something else, you misconstrued the conversation.
I just mean like for the fire station, for
And
example.
it just needs to be in a reserve of some type. And
Yes.
not, if it's the unappropriated reserve or if it's the reserves that we're budgeting for. Right now, it's apparent that it's in a committed reserve. I can't remember the terminology we use every year. We have an unrestricted reserve, which means we can do what we want. And then we have the restricted reserve, which the funds for the fire station study, the funds for the extra parking lot at Heartbreaker, and there's another some other parking lot, you know, they're all set in there for that specific purpose. So we're not gonna, you know, it takes a council action to say, all right, we're gonna take $500,000 away from the fire department and replace the water line. Takes council action to do that. Is that correct?
Correct. And one thing in regards to if you do adopt the water rate increase, the money cannot move out of the enterprise fund there. Because it's basically being
Say
generated.
that one more time, make sure you got it.
You are raising the rate of the water.
Mhm.
The surplus, you have to stay in the enterprise.
Sure.
fund. You can't transfer it for other things. You can supplement the enterprise fund, but you can't take money out of the enterprise fund.
Thank you.
So Randy, where did all the surplus go for the last several years? Actually, for the last 7 years that we have had when he was mentioned that, you know, every time we had an increase, we were gonna say because the authority was gonna raise our increases, where did the money go?
We knew, I guess, we did a study about 8 years ago with Draper 8. And they did basically projected what our costs were gonna be, as well as the projected increases from the water authority. And the water authority was telling us they were basically planning fairly large increases because of the plant rebuild, which has been very expensive. So they have grown up a good deal on the rates, and I think if you notice, they're more than twice what they used to be. And we are too, more than twice what we used to be.
But where is our money at?
It's going to operate, things like water tanks, replacing lines, paying public works to do that.
And aren't we also servicing some of the debts that, I know it's an authority, so it's a split, but we're servicing some of that.
Sewer plant, we do have some debt service for the sewer plant.
How about the water authority? The new rebuilding building?
We don't have to.
We don't.
We don't, that's what's been basically the cause of them raising rates.
The funds that we moved from the connector road plans and all the stuff and everything the other day, I don't see those going back into the general funds. Why are they going into assigned funds when, as he was suggesting? Because don't we want to have that money in the general funds, so at least we have more borrowing power?
We'll put it wherever council would like it, or to put it, we'll park it there. I mean, I don't. have
Is it better for it to be in general funds as far as, you know, bank purposes?
If you want to put it in unassigned fund balance, that's kind of the same difference, other than it's just not reserved.
I would really like it to be in general funds. I feel like it gives us more borrowing power for the town. And it makes us look more financially stable instead of just putting the money on the side for different things. So the way I see it, when you put that into the assigned funds or whatever, it can be used for a new fire station, it can be used for anything else possibly, right? Connector road or other things.
If it's in the operating, yeah, you can assign it to anything.
I would just not like to be a plain money or change money, what I call it. I would just really like it to be literally in the bank or the general funds, because personally for me, it makes it a lot more difficult for anybody that comes in town comes on and start playing with that money. When in reality, it should be in there for backup in case something bad happened. You know, I know that the reserves are there to help us financially for at least 6 months to a year. But I do feel like in these conditions right now that we're in, the more money that we have in there, the more safety zone that we may be. And it also makes us probably look better around the county when they are trying to, you know, possibly build a fire station and Peppersville Road and all these other things that they are trying to do. Maybe we don't have to go through those expenses. And that's my suggestion.
Can you remind me again what the fund balance was after the omissions and the corrections were made?
A little over 30%.
No, 30.
Little over 30,
Mhm.
so it actually went down a little bit from 31.
Well, 31 was rounded up, so it
No,
technically will round down to 30, but it didn't change by much.
Okay. And Randy, I do recall reading and seeing that you and Val had both recommended, and you recently in the last email that be at 35 to 40, especially in
Yes.
rough economic.
That's kind of the general preference.
Mhm.
Part of the reason is there is emergencies, part of it so you can just operate, make payroll, things like that, because we don't have regular revenue. We get a lot of revenue in with business licenses and things in the spring. We get a lot of revenue in December, obviously, with taxes for vehicles and property. So like I said, we kind of,
I know you guys might think I'm overly cautious, but you know, I just,
but
in other circles, including the Agency on Aging
I'll say this
meeting last week, the whole conversation was geared around how Doge was affecting and how we're having to downsize and how everybody's having to limit their expectations this year. And I see it at the state level and the federal level, but I don't see it here. And I'm kind of like, what are we doing? Are we in a different country or, you know, I just feel like it's time to slow down. I totally agree with you that now's not the time to be doing the big matching grants and doing big projects, and it's a time to squirrel away. But why does it have to be the people all the time? Everybody in this room's getting a great big raise coming from the people every year.
Which leads us into
Increase.
the next line item, which is the COLA, cost of living increase. It is projected at 2.5. You have, in front of you a scale of all of the neighboring county, all of your municipalities we could get a hold of.
actually, we didn't do this, Virginia Institute of Government survey is what it is. They'll occasionally send out surveys to localities and ask what you're doing in regards to things. And somebody asked, I guess, in regards to what localities were doing for COLA and merit. And this is literally everybody that responded. So obviously, they're kind of from all around the state.
The county at 3% this year.
Macomb County's on here, they are always at 3% COLA.
So Southwest Virginia, wasn't it? And then, the country is actually having, increases of 2.6%. As far as the cost of living. Now, when we're looking at the cost of living the town is trying to do in the merit, I always like what Showalter had said in the past. We do one or the other, not both. And I think we could do the COLA for sure. I wouldn't have a problem giving an increase. And I'm right there with the county, just do one COLA, 3% for everybody. And when I look at the merits, to me, it just seems like it can also be, you know, for a political gain. It can also be as a way to manipulate your employees. How you want them to act, how you want them to talk, how you want them to actually perform. And I'm not saying that this is happening now, but I am saying that it gives that illusion when you start giving those merits. Because it's not, we all think very differently about people, and you know, like she's saying, you know, Jim and all the people in public works, I feel very highly of them, very highly of them. And I wish we had a lot more of them. But at the same time, you know, seeing what the conditions are and the economics that, you know, Kim Bowman is talking about, you know, everybody's literally tying the belt on a lot of the things that we're doing. I mean, we're concerned as a family, you know, what the future is going to look like. What does the everyday living expenses cost? You know, going out to eat every time or whatever, you know, we're paying everywhere from, you know, going to a restaurant and stuff. And I know that that's a luxury that we're doing, but it's nice to go out. And we want to make sure people still are able to, you know, go out to restaurants and things like that. But I just don't think that at this moment, you know, we have gotten 5% or 2% back in 2013, 2014, you know, we got a 9.5. I'm sorry, it was 3% and 2%, that would be 5. And then now you got, 4.5. How does make us look around even Bradford City and everything? What was their increase in COLA and merit? Do you
I
know?
haven't seen their, but I don't think they did any salary increases. But
I think that's strong.
they've struggled with it, but
And we don't want to struggle either. We want to make sure that our employees are paid and they are paid well. And I feel like, from the last time that the study was done as far as our employees, we did go up. And since the time I have been in town council, we have paid, we increased the lower, right now, the
we
starting
did a lot
level.
of starting level.
The starting levels was at least $15 an hour, and we have been working ahead of the game as far as that goes.
But we, in reality, we're probably still behind. Because you go out into most of the industries and the skilled areas, and people, they're paying $17 and $18 an hour. Skilled work.
Well, so let's pay
so we're
the
still a little
skilled
bit
workers
behind.
a lot more, but
Yeah.
let's pay the skilled workers a lot more. The difference is when you're making $100,000, that increase, right there is over $4,000 a year, it's over $5,000 a year, but then if you're looking at someone that's making, like Gene was saying, $50,000 a year, that's only $2,500 a year increase. So, I'm just saying, we want to make sure that we are showing an image to the citizens that is of respect, because they're the ones that are paying our bills. They're the ones that are paying everyone in yearly salaries. And we want to make sure that they know that they are appreciated for what they are giving us to.
And so you're at this point,
At
you live
3%.
with the 2.5 COLA.
I'm okay with 3%.
So now we go to the merit, which is a 2%, and that's not everybody. You have to earn it to get it. So it's based on job performance. So what I had thought, we will probably, as long as we could meet every day, and we're still there's gonna be pros and cons. So what I really think is we need to, as we get ready to approve the budget, we will break it out into 4 line items. We'll break it out into the water, so each council member has a chance to vote. We'll out to the COLA and out to the merit. And then we'll go on to the total budget as a
Yeah.
final.
I really like that. Thank you so much for doing that. I'm even okay to go up to the 3% just with the county and most of the people around here, with the COLA. So we're a little bit ahead of the game of the state and the United States, actually overall. The United States is 2.6, so if
So
we do a 3%, it would be really, really nice.
I understand that. I trust in what the administrators and the department heads have, they put a lot of work into this, and this is what they're comfortable with a 2% and a 2.5%. The COLA increase, there've been years it's been nothing. I mean, the thing that triggers a COLA increase is what's the nation and the state, what they're gonna do. And if you don't increase, and I know I'm beating the dead horse into a coma again, but I mean, if you don't go the COLA increase, they have lost money.
Randy, did you say this would equal to 12% in 2 years?
Bring it.
Okay, that's what you said. I can go back and verify. You said 11.5, and then you said they got some little something that made it 12.
12.5. Houston doesn't enough.
Okay, last year, it was a 2% merit and a 3% COLA. The year prior, it was a 2% merit and a 5% COLA.
So you would adding pretty much,
12%,
that's 12%.
if they got both,
Correct.
which means if they were a good employee.
They deserve it.
Yes. So.
But that's also equivalent to the region look at kind of what's on your spreadsheet there. It's keeping us competitive. It's helping us keep our strong employees.
If you look at the 2 years prior to, we weren't keeping up with, the consumer price index increase either.
But then we gave big increases after that, because that was huge. And I
I
know,
think that was maybe kind of making up to some degree for the years prior, because like I say, I guess the consumer price.
we had
index
COVID and
increase.
everything too.
That was, yeah, obviously a big increase that year. It was an 8.6 increase that year.
There was a lot of uncertainty during that time, and I remember most of council was, we were actually all on the same page as far as that went.
So you all are good at this point with just splitting it out and taking the 3 items we have discussed tonight individually and have an individual vote on it in open session. And then the final will be a vote on the budget itself.
So what did we decide as far as moving the money into the general funds instead of assigned balance? We can always have an amendment to the budget, obviously, later
Well,
on.
I mean,
But I just feel like if we have the money in the general fund, it makes us look a lot more financially sound.
if we, at any point in time, we can request that this be done. Now, I do like the fact that we're taking money out of the fire department reserve and moving it to the general fund or moving it somewhere else. And it's, as far as the parking lots and things like that, I would rather have that money set into the general fund reserve. Now,
So you agree?
for a while, simply because who knows what the future is? Who knows what's gonna happen tomorrow? I think we're financially sound. We're probably one of the most financially sound municipalities in this end of the state, if not the entire state.
But we want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Well, and we have. Now, we've kept it that way for 20 years.
Mhm.
There's a lot of concepts, but we are a well-managed town. Now, if this, the million for that and the 965 for the parking lot, whatever, and there was another 950 for something else. or
I don't think
150,
so. I think those are the.
Those two, so that's $1.9 million that we could move into the undesignated reserves or unassigned reserves and take it out of the funding reserve, and that lowers that percentage and it raises the available funds to be spent. But we don't have to spend it.
Thank you.
Takes an act of the council and the request to.
Randy, how do you feel about that?
I don't have any issue with it. It's, sort of 6 of one and half dozen of the other. The money's sitting there either way. If it's in reserves, we can't touch it. And, operating, we gotta come to you for, if it's in general operating, we've gotta come to you to spend it anyhow, to assign it to something. So, if it's on unassigned reserves, so it's kind of, like I say, it's kind of 6 of one and half dozen of the other.
If it's moved to the operating reserve, that pushes that percentage up, right? If it's moved to the,
Unreserved.
it's moved to the unreserved.
Unreserved,
There was
Pushes-
one where it pushes your percentage up and there's one that stayed.
Yeah, if you move it to the unreserved fund balance, it will increase that 30%. I was looking for my paper, I didn't bring it with me. If you put it in assigned, it'll just stay where it is. It doesn't change the percentage.
I'm just personally, as we start to go down the road with the rescue, fire and rescue in the county, I just assume that money not be sitting in there. Visible, well, you got $1 million set aside for this, can't you use it for that?
I agree.
No, we can't. So that's what we'll do.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, EMS, fire and EMS stopping.
Yeah, I'm gonna read from this because I don't want to miss anything. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about this since I left the last
excuse me, are
meeting.
we in EMS now?
Yeah.
Okay,
First, my first question, and I'm not sure if what I've heard, how much is true and how much is not, but I really want to get to the truth of the matter. So, first I want to know why I'm hearing this from whistleblowers, multiple whistleblowers, instead of you or Tim Wilson.
We haven't heard it either. I mean,
Maybe we'll all
that's
hear it tonight then, that'd be great for all of us, and maybe we can work through it and get to the bottom of it. Because it should have been brought to all of us, including most of the people in this room. And I think, unfortunately, the gatekeeper system that keeps council from freely speaking to employees has instead created a whistleblower culture. And I guess the one good thing about whistleblower culture is they have protection. And so does the person who they blow to. So there's that, but I'm not even sure that a gatekeeper for elected official is legal. I'm gonna check into it. But yeah, the story I heard that there was a glitch in the new accounting software, okay, which led to a shortfall in the part-time EMS payroll budget. Okay, I'm not sure how many, I've heard different stories, but evidently a lot of part-time people were cut somewhere around 45% of their hours is what I've heard. I don't know the truth, but I'd love to. Okay, this led to us losing some of our EMS staff and left others disgruntled, which I'm sure it would. I would be upset too. So, and then I'm kind of perplexed because we sit here and had at least 2 discussions and we talked about volunteerism. I'm a great fan of volunteerism. I actually think volunteers can be better than employees in some respects. And, we discussed how that was supposedly a thing that was falling by the wayside. But then I drive by our fire station and guess what I see? A sign trying to get volunteer firemen and EMS. When Johanna had just offered 2 new employees. And we were, I was in agreement because I didn't have the full picture that we should wait on that until we get the study back. But I didn't know that all of this was going on. And I guess trying to remember back when the first person came to me, I would say it was late April, maybe the beginning of May, somewhere around there. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure of the exact date from the first person. But, yeah, I'm not sure why there was a sudden change of heart. I imagine that they're scrambling, trying to get some people. Because it's my understanding that the fractile time should be 13 minutes or less for 90% of our calls. And this is information that I took from the 2024 Emergency Response Plan. I understand that it's somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes a call, at least on some of those calls right now because of this. And I've seen on there that there's supposed to be a minimum of 2 ALS ambulance. Since we've been cut, are we meeting that standard would be one question. And we're supposed to have 1 ALS supervisor. Are we able to meet that requirement? If not, have we had to contact the chief of officer on duty or notify the mutual aid agencies or the public safety point? I mean, I'm not sure whether this is a ploy because we're working with the county or if this is an honest mistake that wasn't brought forward. But either way, we need to get to the bottom of it and make sure that it doesn't happen again.
So my understanding, there was a,
Got some slides we can go through to kind of talk about how we got to the point we are and why the decision was made.
The biggest question I have, the first question I have is why did we have to find out about it the way we did? Okay, I'm going back to the ethics here. Did you know, Tanya?
I don't have any of these. I mean, I know a little bit based on a chat that we had after the meeting, but we haven't been presented any information about this, so.
Not in the committee, I don't.
No.
Could maybe just try to go through the slide here. And I think it explains, I guess, what happened and how we handled it. We had changes in the new Tyler and Munis software, and we had a coding entry error with the background of the system, which impacted where wages were being recorded. So they were basically being charged to a non-wage category. We figured that out, to be honest, not that long ago, and we've taken steps.
How long have you known?
I guess,
That about the coding error.
About it also ended up being a,
well,
Well, that
Why
wasn't really
That-
discovered at first.
that's kind of maybe the first problem that we had, because the department heads that would see the budget thought there was more budget available than there would have been because of the budget, the coding category error. That did affect, as mentioned, basically everybody with part-time staff, but the larger departments were affected more. And that didn't mean the money wasn't there. It just meant it wasn't showing up in the right category.
is that why we asked to move that money a couple of weeks ago?
No, actually, we'll get to that. Once we found the error internally, we were running over budget because for EMS, which had been monitoring and monthly, based on our reported values, but minimize the overruns, we decided to reduce part-time wage hours, and that's to meet the budget allocation. So we decreased daily operations from running 3 units as well as 3 people on an ambulance for training, which is optimal, to running 2 units and only 2 people on an ambulance, which is the minimal requirements.
So to answer that question, yes, we are meeting the minimum.
I'm sorry.
To answer your question from earlier, we are meeting the minimum. She were reading.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
But from my understanding, and these were different people that came to me from the ones that came to Kim and some of the people I have spoken with. But the information that I also have gotten was that out of the 3 ambulances, only 1 was being run out some of the times because there was not enough personnel to fill in the other 2. And then those calls were sent out to the county. Is that correct? Did that ever happen during this last couple months?
Say that again.
So out of the ambulances that were supposed to be sent out for EMS, was there any time that you had to call the county to help out because you didn't have enough employees to fill in those 2 ambulances or 3 ambulances?
It's hard to say the reason why. We have had to call mutual aid, in the past 2 months. For.
I was told that
But
you have.
Recovered, but that's not.
numerous calls, even in one day.
Let's let him make his explanation.
We do, I don't have exact numbers on how many and when, but that is a common occurrence across the year as well. And that's come for them to call us as well.
How many was it the employees that were affected by this glitch? Was it 36?
We don't have that many part-time employees. I think we have closer to around 30.
Mhm.
It's when we haven't like cut anyone per se, we have just reduced hours kind of across the board.
Yeah, which it was significantly.
How many have we lost that have took on other jobs?
I've only taken 1 resignation that was in part due to this, and she was planning on leaving in 2 months. And she just didn't want to renew her lease early, or she didn't want to renew her lease, so she just moved it up a little bit. That's the only one that I can directly attribute to this.
Under normal circumstances, we will lose during the summer. We have several students, Tech and Bradford University, and we lose 4 to 6 of those every summer.
I say 6 to 8,
It's what,
6 to 8.
6 to 8 leave and go home for the summer. Normally they return back to us in the fall, but we know we're gonna be that short during the summer as always.
Well, the people I have spoken with are looking for jobs. And the crazy thing is that they love their job and they talk very highly of you, very highly of you. And so, and the department, they actually love their job before this happened. So I hope you understand that the job you have done over there is well, because they speak very highly of you in your department as far as this glitch.
Yeah.
They don't blame you for it.
No.
They don't blame you at all. And they definitely don't blame any of you, but they do blame town council for it, or they blame me for it. And I was like, well, I had no clue about this. And so to find it the way like Kim was talking about is in some way for me is like, it feels like we have been played, or I feel like I've been played because I'm trying to figure out what are we doing? Was that information not given to us because whatever reason? But the one thing that I keep thinking about that is not leaving my head is the fact that it's kind of interesting that we went from like needing help, needing buildings and everything else to, we didn't get any money from the county. We didn't get a meeting from the county. The county is doing a study, but then, oh yeah, we're gonna see the need. And so the county is really gonna help us. And so does this mean that, are we not paying these employees or are we not giving sufficient hours to a lot of these people because all of a sudden we gotta show that need to the county so they can give us more money? And that's just how it comes out to my mind. It doesn't give me a good taste out of what just took place. Really find out what happened with the money. That was, where did that money go if it wasn't paid for?
Keep going with the sure plans. As mentioned, we were running three people and 3 units on an ambulance. So we were running three units and 3 people on the ambulance. We had leadership changes in EMS, which required acclimation and catch up to the scheduling and budget management process. Extra wage hours were used beyond what was anticipated during the state of emergency. Although we have new internal oversight procedures which have been implemented and will result in more organizational efficiencies with future budgets. And basically beginning July 1st budget, we should have a new budget. Basically, in the new budget, they anticipated to cover services. And I guess some additional challenges we had, set up of in-house pharmacy, approximately 45,000 unfunded mandate, has required a little bit of additional staff time. Best efforts have been made to avoid coming to council for a budget amendment to cover the cost. The ability to provide additional hours for part-time staff decreases the risk of turnover beyond what's forecast. 6 to 8 due to graduation relocation over the summer. New part-time staff requires additional training for certification. Estimate that at 47,500 for the next fiscal year.
And that comes out of the wage budget, just FYI.
And just to give you an idea of what running 3 people in the ambulance costs additionally for training. And training paramedic is approximately 9,600 and for EMT it's approximately 5,500. And just if the council desires, town staff would propose 20,000 from savings in operating line wages, and that's from other departments, to rescue wages in the current fiscal budget to allow scheduling of part-time employees for the remainder of May and June of 25. To minimize any staffing losses and provide more than minimum level of service required, if council desires. Basically, let you know that we've accounted for probably $1 million worth in the unassigned fund balance rolling over the next year in saved wages because of having vacancies. But there's still going to be more money than that. And if you would want to desire to use 20,000 of that, Katie and I don't have an issue with it. It's not going to affect the unassigned fund balance and push it below 30%.
I really
That's
would love for that to have be presented to us in mid-March.
Yeah, I was
Just
actually
like that,
writing
yeah.
that down.
I understand mistakes, I really do. But my God, bring it to the people who can help.
And when did you all hear this?
I heard it
March, April?
first time.
Yeah.
First time I heard it. I said it was the end of March, early April, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah,
And I treat it as a whistleblower because it is indeed a whistleblower and a real.
that's fair. That's fine. But
I
should
heard
it not
about
have been,
this.
should it not have been at that point? instead of
Well,
sitting on
you
it
know-
until we get to the budget.
Actually, at the meeting, when I seen that line item on there and I seen we were shifting money, I thought, oh, I'm gonna come clean, so I don't have to do this. But that's not what happened.
I just heard
So-
about it the
And
day,
more people came
the
forward.
days before town council.
It's what,
I heard it just within the last week. And I was really upset because it feels like hopefully nobody died during this, but, this
I
is,
understand.
this is people's lives. And if he takes, 13 minutes, I think it was his timeline to, over 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes for the county to show up. Somebody can die over this. And so, and and I'm not saying that it happened, but I'm just saying it can happen. And this to me, it's something that, it should have been brought out right away. And I did not like how it was presented.
And did you know about it, Mayor? You was in the dark too?
I've heard
That's
nothing
astounding
about,
to me.
I know that we talked about the era of the accounting system and all that type of stuff, but I was not totally aware of anything else as far as that goes, and the fact that we were using our full-time people more than we maybe should have in order, but to meet our needs. But I do know, and the fact is out there, our rescue squad answers more calls than the rest of the county combined. So there is a need for those people. Now, volunteerism is great, but it's dead.
Then why are we advertising?
Well,
We'll take all the volunteers we can get. I think
but now, in the old days, Sam, when you came on the rescue squad as a volunteer, how long before you were able to actually run a call?
Well, by the time you finish your training and everything, it was probably 6 months or longer.
Yeah. Now it's about 2 years.
Yeah, for me. I'm saying, that's been a little while back.
And there's a difference between a volunteer and a paid part-time. And I think that's what we really look for. So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So was this the result of the glitch, or was this the result of some unexpected expenses, or was it the result of both?
Well, it's a combination, I think, because
it's a combination.
So have we, or have you all discussed any safeguards so that in the future, there would be a recognition of any glitches, or if unexpected costs come up, there's a plan to reallocate some funding for those costs?
Yes, basically every department head's gonna monitor their budget monthly, and Katie is going to, I guess, basically check wages, everything, make sure everything's going down the way it should be. Monthly.
So,
So it doesn't,
a big portion of it was the 45,000 in unfunded mandates that we have to now buy our own medication. Is that correct? It was furnished by the hospitals, or?
That's correct. It was completely free prior to about 4 or 6 weeks ago.
So are you saying that the other monies that we appropriated, did that 80,000 go fully to that med box, or?
How much was the med box?
45.
The whole program was around 45,000. That's including initial stock of supplies, new bags, because I mean,
They were paid out of current revenue. The 45,000 that we budgeted or we allowed a couple of weeks ago went purely to the payroll side to pay our help.
And that's what it should have said. Okay.
That's what it did.
It shouldn't have been presented as $80,000 for a med box that went up from 35 to 80. And this is the problem I have. It's not with glitches. It's not with mistakes. It's with honesty and accountability and transparency. That's the problem I have.
Okay.
Is this gonna mess up with our audit that happens later in the year?
So what are we doing to help the EMS? We're gonna ask for 20,000 more.
If it's council's desire, we can transfer that.
And is that going to help your situation?
It will.
It'll be used on paying part-time help.
That's correct.
I'm just
Emphasize that.
pulling people, the part-time existing staff. Well, how much of the existing staff will that recall? Is that like what you would have normally been operating with?
So kind of, the way we've done it is we haven't cut any one person percentage wise more than another. We've just reduced everyone's hours by like almost the same percentage.
So everybody's still working, they're just working less hours?
That's correct.
So this would just increase their hours and they'd be back to where they were before,
That's correct.
overall the staff?
That's,
Okay.
Is $20,000 enough? Because if I'm looking at someone that makes, what's your average for someone getting paid over there, $20 an hour?
optimal staffing requires $10,000 per week, in wage.
Additional? Is that what you're
That would be like payroll on average
Okay.
for optimal, if everything was optimally staffed, would be about $20,000 every 2 weeks.
So what do you need from now until, because the new budget should not have any problems, right, Katie?
Yes.
All right, so you got what, 1 month? So you need $40,000, is that what you need?
So I think the 20,000 will be enough because what we've identified is of having some extra money in fringe. Because luckily we have a lot of people that are still on their parents' insurance and we don't end up doesn't look like we're gonna end up using all our fringe money. So we've looked at that and that combined with the 20,000.
So you guys have worked with Randy and Scott to make sure that the shortfall's covered if this is approved.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Right, so can we put this on the agenda for next week, or is this on the agenda already to be moving $20,000 into the budget for you to make sure, and is that gonna cover the people so you have those people that are required to have in those ambulances and everything to cover the calls now?
We could do it as a budget amendment. The town budget policy authorizes Katie and I each to line item transfer $10,000 in the budget. And we could shift basically from other department wage, if it's okay with you, to rescue.
I'd rather have the accountability piece than do it in council.
You put it on the next agenda.
Every time we do this kind of thing, it gives people reason to distrust us. Whether it's intentional or whether it's not.
With the 20 grand, we will be able to, once it's passed Tuesday night, I assume it will be passed. It will be available immediately for them to do. Okay. Very good. Anything else?
One thing I'll mention, we will need a public hearing for the water rate increase if you desire it. If you would like to have the public hearing, I would set it for June the 10th.
Can we wait until after the meeting and then set it? Do we have time to do that?
Because I mean, we don't have 2 members in here right now, and we have what, 3, 4, 5 people, but you're probably one, not even vote. I would really like for that to be said after we find out what Casey Jenkins and Tim Wilson may say about this.
Well, we can always set the vote, if we're gonna have a public hearing, we have to set it at a meeting, which would be the one that's coming Tuesday night.
Okay.
So, we don't have enough time to advertise it now, I don't think.
I think you'll be okay because it only takes, 2 notices of between 7 and 28 days. So
Thank you.
So where are we?
that'll be okay. You could, if you want to wait until Tuesday night to decide whether you set up a hearing or not, that's fine.
All right. Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean,
If we advertise a public hearing tomorrow for the water rate increase at our next meeting, is that time to do?
can't advertise it for the meeting next Tuesday. I could advertise it for June 10th. And I could do that even after next Tuesday, I could still do that.
Okay, well, you know, I think it's a little damn late to be having to re-advertise this thing. We've known about this thing, the water increase for 2 months, 3 months. We've advertised it once and now all of a sudden we advertise it again. We should have had it already advertised twice and discussed. Now, if we want to do it on the 10th, that's fine. We have to set a date. Let's hear it.
Yeah, the 10 sounds good.
The 10th sounds good. All right. Now, the night of the 10th, after the public hearing, we can vote to approve the budget. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, after we've had the public hearing. Very good. So it looks like the budget is set to first consideration of approval is June 10th. Anything else? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you. The notations and the stuff y'all had, will you